The Chinese capital, Beijing, is seeing a sharp increase in COVID-19 cases. And high numbers of workers testing positive for the virus means that the city's funeral homes are overwhelmed. Undertakers say they're short on drivers and workers, so families have to wait longer to cremate their relatives. Local media have reported more coronavirus-linked deaths, even though official tallies do not include the latest victims. China relaxed some of the world's toughest measures to control the spread of the virus just over a week ago. Well, for more, we're joined now by Fabian Kretschmer, who is in Beijing. Hello to you, Fabian. So, no official reports about COVID-related deaths or even just an uptick in cases. But how reliable is government information? What are you seeing in the capital?
Well, the official numbers are completely misleading, actually absurdly misleading. What we've seen here in Beijing is basically how the last zero COVID fortress became the #1 COVID hotspot in a matter of days. It is literally hard to find anyone in the city who has not been infected in the last 2 weeks with the virus. So literally, I mean, I've spoken to companies whose employees are 90% sick. The consulate service of the German embassy had to close down. Many companies had to suspend the operation because too many people are sick. It's really so spread that even doctors who are infected have to continue working in hospitals because there's no other way. And of course, we know that people are also dying. Some reporters, for example, of the Financial Times, they went to crematoriums, they went to funeral institutions, and both are working at full capacity. And they say that much more bodies are coming in than during usual terms. So I think that's a clear sign, but those deaths, they do not show up in the official statistics, and that's really irresponsible to still publish them because they are really completely misleading and do not reflect the situation on the ground.
What's the picture in other large Chinese cities? We're hearing that Shanghai, the financial hub, is now closing its schools. Are other big cities likely to follow or take other measures to curb the spread of the virus?
Yeah, it's very hard to really assess the situation on the ground because of the lack of transparent data. From my understanding, Shanghai sees an increase of COVID cases, a massive increase, but the situation is not as bad as in Beijing, at least not yet. And the closure of schools is basically a mitigation effort. And I'm sure we will see similar efforts also in other cities, because the real stress test of the pandemic will not happen in Beijing and Shanghai, where we have a rather developed medical system, but more in the second-tier cities or in the provinces in the west and also in the south, where some of the medical system is really very rudimentary developed. And in the coming weeks, we will have a Chinese New Year, the travel season, where hundreds of millions of Chinese will travel to their hometowns, and of course then also take the virus and will spread it to every corner of the country. So there we will really see how fast senior people can get vaccinated. Because really the time is ticking, and I think the country really was not prepared for such a radical opening up after 2.5 years of zero COVID.
Fabian Kretschmer in Beijing for us. Fabian, thank you so much for your reporting.